There's a world outside yourself. So then you just think to yourself as a kid, right? 'Cause I want to show you how it's natural and normal. It's in your fitra to realize God's existence. And I want to show you what the thinking process that you had when you were young, but you don't realize. Maybe when you got older, you forgot, or you heard these atheists making arguments and they confused you about. But I'm going to go through just a normal thinking process that everyone goes through, maybe even on a conscious level, but you realize this. The second thing that you realize is, well, you didn't create yourself, right? I mean, did you choose how tall you are, how big you are, your strength, right? Your size, the color of your eyes. Did you choose these things? No, you didn't. And you don't remember existing in the past. You don't have a memory that you've always been around. So that's the second conclusion you come to. That's number 2. The third thing that you come to is, in this big world, when you're living your life as a kid, you realize that a whole bunch of things happen in this world. Things that surprise you, you get shocked. But I want to ask you the question, what do you think is the biggest evidence for you as a kid that you are not God? You are not the creator. You're not all powerful. What's the biggest evidence that you found when you were growing up that made you realize you're not God? Not that you thought of it, but yeah, you have needs. What about your needs?
Needs for company, needs for attention. Never mind sustenance, but just feelings and emotions.
You have feelings and emotions, but what specifically tells you that you're not God? Okay, so that's a good one. You acknowledge that your parents came before you and you weren't always existing, but we already covered that in number 2, right? Number 3, what is the evidence you get from living your life that tells you you're not God? There's nothing natural that you can make. Well, yeah, you didn't make the trees, you didn't make everything else, but there's something else. There's a really, really big thing that occurs that to you that makes you realize you're not God. Sorry?
The fact that you get hungry often and you need somebody to fulfill that need. You can't provide that on your own when you're growing up.
Yeah, the fact that you're hungry and you can't fulfill that need. True. But there's one other thing. It's a really big thing.
We find everything already in existence. We grow up and it's already there. So I'm born today, but this is already here. So I realize that I have no control over that.
You have no control over that. Yes, that is true. And one other thing.
It's one thing that you need to look, but you can't see it.
There's one air. Okay. But there's something else. There's something else that happens to you in your life that really makes you realize that you don't control things. Well, no, that's too. That is too late. Sheikh. You see yourself growing.
Yes, but I don't know how when I'm growing. I just see I'm making difference.
Okay. You're seeing yourself getting big. Yes, but there's something else. I'm looking for. I'm afraid.
At various stages in your childhood, you have from no control to less control to less control to less control. So what kind of creator has no control over any aspect of their lives?
True, you have no control, less control, but there's something else, something major that really makes you realize that you don't control this universe. Because you could say maybe like if someone was in growing up, they were born into this world, they didn't really see the beginning of this world. Maybe the world started when they started, right? And the parents were there when they were started to exist when they woke up, so to speak, right? So you never saw that your parents were before you, right? So there's something else as well. There's something else that you experience, because you might say, well, okay, I'm hungry, I have needs, yes, but I get food, so I get satisfied. So everything happens to satisfy my needs, my wants. If I want something, I get it. But what tells you that you're not God? I gave a clue away. You get sick, and what does sickness make you feel? So, Sheikh?
In a constant state of change.
How do you know you're not the one that's changing things? I mean, what tells you that that you're not God ultimately? Well, the Sheikh, but was onto something, right? You said you get sick. What does that? But what does sickness make you feel? No, but what does it make you feel though? Like you go to the doctor, you say, "What's your symptom?" Helplessness. No, it's something else. You tell them, pain, suffering. Right? There's things that happen to you that you don't like and you can't stop. You can't get away from. That's what I was looking for. Right? That's the biggest reminder that you are not God. You can't avoid suffering when it happens to you. Right? So that means that you're not all powerful. Things don't happen because you might think in Jannah things are changing. In Jannah you get what you want, right? But what reminds you in this life, of course, what reminds you that you're not God? When you were first born to this world, you can't get everything you want, right? You don't get everything you want. Okay, so then you realize that, okay, I didn't come from nowhere. Because you know how children ask the parents, mommy and daddy, or whatever, where do babies come from? Or where did I come from? Because it's natural. Also, I started somewhere. I know because I woke up, so to speak. But well, where did I come from? It's natural to ask, where did I come from? And you weren't created by nothing. You didn't come from nothing. You came from some place somewhere, and of course, you would later learn that it was from your parents, right? Your parents brought you into this world. So you know that you were created by something that is not you. That's what you realize. You didn't make yourself. You were not made by nothing, so you were made by something else. That's what the conclusion you come to. But then you realize something else, right? You walk around, the trees, you see the trees, right? Yeah, the trees aren't made of the same thing you are made. They're not the exact material, but they're still made of material. You can bend it, break it, like I can bend and break my own finger or my hand, or I can scratch my skin, and I can scratch the bark on the tree, and I can break the rock. What do you realize when you see all these objects in this universe that look like they're made of the same kind of stuff like you are? Not the exact materials, but made of matter, made of are objects, are physical like yourself. What do you realize if you came from somewhere else? You didn't make yourself. You didn't come from nothing. So what do you realize about all the other objects around you? So I didn't make myself. I came from something else. Something else had to make me. But when you go out and you look at the trees and you look at the grass and the birds and the mountains and things, what do you think about that? Well, but okay, anyone else? Just go back and what did you realize when you looked at the trees and the flowers and sorry?
Something created there as well.
Yeah, they didn't make themselves. They can't stop themselves from being damaged and broken, like you can't stop yourself from being damaged and broken. I mean, you could try to avoid it, but you have accidents you didn't anticipate, and you basically hurt yourself. So if you're breakable and everything else is breakable, and you were created by something else, and everything else is breakable, they're just like you. They're in this universe just like you are. They are created just like you are, right? Maybe different materials, but ultimately the same kind of stuff. It's a physical thing of materials that are breakable. So then you look at the mountains, you look at the sun, the stars, everything. They all have shapes and things, and they move around like everything else does. And you realize everything is just like me. We're all stuck in the same boat, as the saying goes, right? They might be much bigger than me, like that mountain, but it's pretty much the same principle. Made by something else, breakable, damageable, moves around, or is being moved by something else. So then you realize that the whole universe, everything in it that you can see, is made by something else. So then the question is, made by what? Because you might say, well, okay, how do I know that this world is not made by a different world and a different world and a different, that mountain was made by another mountain, made by another mountain, or whatever, How do you know that's not the case? Right? How do you know that the past hasn't been forever? Like things have always existed, they've always been changing, but there's always been existing something that's been changing and moving and so on and so forth, right? Now, in your not subconscious, but your intuition, like the subconscious processor that you have, you kind of know that, look, it has to start somewhere. The universe, like all this had to start it out, because if the trees started at some point, and I started at some point, my parents started at some point, the baby started at some point, everything starts at some point. So if you add it all together, it all started at some point. All right, that's what you call your intuition tells you this, and it's a correct one, because your mind is processing something and it comes to a conclusion. But then the atheist or the confused person comes to you and says, well, this is a feeling of yours, but how do you know it's true? Like, how do you know it's true? This is a feeling. Maybe the universe has always been around. There's been different universes, and each one, it starts and then it ends, it dies, and then it creates a new universe, and that universe is born and it dies, and then a new universe, and forever and ever and ever and ever. How do you know that's not the situation? Now, your intuition has worked out why that's not that, but you can't say it into words. So all I'm going to do in this discussion is simply tell you how to put into words what your intuition has already worked out. Right? It's already worked out. So I was told 12 o'clock, but let's say I have a lot to say, which obviously I've been speaking too much. Don't know when to stop. But let's say the organizers they shut the doors, they close all the windows, and they say no one's leaving until Abdullah finishes his lecture. And let's say and you say to Abdullah, when are you going to finish your lecture? Then I need to go home. I said, don't worry, I will finish my lecture after an infinite amount of time has finished. Then you can go home. Will you ever go home? Right. Right. The word infinite in Latin means literally, because people say infinite. What's this weird, crazy word? It literally just means not finishable. In Zulu, what is the word for infinity, or like not something that doesn't finish? Is there a Zulu word for it? I'm actually now curious. I tried to learn it in every language when I give this lecture as well. So I know in Urdu, lah mahdud means infinite, which is from the Arabic actually, ghair mahdud. But anyway.
I think there's no one else here that speaks my language. I'll take the chance.
Please.
114.
Please.
And I think Zulu might be the same, but there's not in Siswati, it wouldn't be one word.
Any word that means.
It's continuous, but it would be kubega, like to go on and on and on and on.
Say again, it's
Kubega.
Kubega.
No, kubega.
Oh.
What K you see you.
Oh.
There's no Q or R in my language.
Right.
There's no letters, Q and R.
So it's
Kubega.
apologize. Yeah.
Zulu. Good luck saying it.
Oh, you don't know this. Okay. Well, I'm not going to pronounce something from a text. Anyway, I need to help with. I'll need help with my Zulu tajweed, as they say, right? My pronunciation. Okay, so you could say something that goes on forever, but another way of saying it is it doesn't finish. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It never finishes. So then, let's say they're preparing lunch, and at 12 o'clock of lunch soon, or they say they're going to serve lunch, and you ask, when is lunch going to be ready? And they say, don't worry, lunch is going to be ready in an unfinishable amount of time, or a non-ending amount of time. Once that ends, you'll have lunch, right? Will you ever get lunch? No, right? And then that tells you now why you realized in your heart, or you could say your intuition, that the universe hasn't been around forever. Do you know why? Because if the universe, or some universes, or there was a chain of universes or whatever, if there was a time in the past that was forever and ever and ever, to reach this moment in time, you have to wait after an unfinishable amount of time finishes to reach now. So we would never reach now, right? So that's now your nafs, your intuition, you could say the subconscious part of you that process things, already worked this out, but you didn't know how to put it into words. So when an atheist comes to you and says, how do you know the universe hasn't always been around? It was never created, so it doesn't need God. That's what they say. How do you know it was never created? So it does not need God. Because you just say you have a feeling, and I say, oh, no, it doesn't feel right, but I don't know how to explain it. All I've done is given the words to what you've already worked out inside yourself. Your fitrah has already worked this out. You just didn't know how to explain it or express it. And what happens with the unfortunately atheists or many other people is they get confused. They say, well, did you see the universe start? No. So how do you know it started? They'll say, they'll say like this, you don't believe anything you haven't seen. Did you see the universe start? No. So then how can you believe it started? That's how they say it. And then it goes, oh, that makes sense. Oh, now I'm really confused. I say, wait a second, I don't need to see the universe starting to know it started. I don't need to. Because I know that if it was forever, if it never ever started anywhere, we'd have to wait an infinite amount of time, an unfinishable amount of time to finish before you reach now. And the reason why it's wrong is a contradiction. An unfinishing amount of time to finish. It's a contradiction. Sure.
From what you just described, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I don't know that kind of understanding is an African understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but does anybody in this room actually know of an indigenous black African atheist? I can't think.
No, he says he does.
Right? Oh, okay. No, I can imagine that yes, there must be a few, but would it be I have what I do know is traditional people believe in a deity, so it might not be Allah, it might not be Jesus per se, but they culturally there are ways to give praise to God. We can argue who God is, obviously, but just saying, I did not realize, and I don't really believe that much African cultures are atheist.
Well, COVID didn't start in Africa, but it still came here before you give the vaccination. All right, that's my point. But you're right. In every civilization, every culture, they believed in God or something which was a creator above them all. Maybe they didn't define it. Even if they use the word he, they could say it. But there was some higher force, higher thing that created everything. And even if they were polytheists, they would have said what they usually do is they usually believe in a head god, and then the head god has like children and family and things like this underneath this. But because what happened was they originally believed in one god, but they added the other gods later on in their history. So that's why every polytheistic religion has a head god, even a first creator god, and the other gods came later. I think in India, for example, like they celebrate the birthdays of their different the sub gods, the smaller gods. They celebrate their birthdays. It's like, what? Why are you then? Why are you worshiping it then? If it was born, you know. Anyway, sorry, you have a question, Sheikh, or a point?
It's very hard to find, amongst the rural farming community, maybe much easier to find it in the concrete jungle of the cities, but the people who live in the rural farming regions that are close to nature, it's very hard to find an atheist among them because they are close to nature and
Yeah.
they see God in the signs
Yeah.
around them.
Yeah. So um, uh, what you see when I pointed out to like number 5, yeah, the external world is like me. If you're close to nature, you realize you depend on you realize how dependent you are, and also, but you see nature itself is dependent, and everything is things. You realize this more. Whereas if you're in a city where humans made, you start to think, you assume, well, we're self-sufficient. I'm independent, right? And why do I need God? You know, maybe we don't need God. The universe doesn't need God. So you're right. Cities are the places where atheists are most likely to arise from, because they are detached from nature. So their fitra and their intuition is disconnected from processing reality, from seeing it and coming to a conclusion about reality, the correct one. Go ahead.
So I just on this point, I know like societies that are living closer to nature believe in God, but their concept of God sometimes is just a supernatural being that can do things that we can't do, that may have been involved in this. But if they don't follow the logical process, they don't get to a necessary being who cannot change, who is not changed. And this process is still important for them to understand that maybe other beings that they're worshipping who may have superpowers are not yet God and still cannot be worshipped. Because in many of these cultures, even the head god has things about him that's finite. So Zeus or whoever it is still finite. So the same argument should still apply. The fact that they believe in a higher power doesn't equate to the fact that they believe in wajib wujud.
Okay.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
I think that's still.
Yeah. I mean, humans might have been, believing in God, and because God is not a mindless thing, right? But God, obviously, He has will and He decides things. So then they start to say, "Oh, humans have will. We, seem to have a personality." So then eventually they made the assumption over time, slowly and slow changes. They say, "Oh, maybe God has human attributes like us, so He looks like us. He has the same shape of body as us, and so on. But He's he's very powerful and uncreated, but He just looks like us, right? And things like this. Yes. So we added assumptions over time to it. Go ahead, brother. Give him the microphone, please.
The argument about infinity, how the universe couldn't be infinitely regressive. Atheists might counter it and say, well, God never had a beginning, so if God never had a beginning, it would take an infinite amount of time to reach now. They would just substitute God and use the same logic. How would you respond to that?
Okay, so if they say that, or if you think God is eternal in the past, wouldn't that still mean time? Right? Time is change. God doesn't change. He's not in time, or He's not dependent on time, right? So he doesn't wait a long time to make the universe, right? He does His actions outside of time. So he's not waiting around and then say, okay, now I'll wait infinite amount of time, then I'll make the universe. No, because that means that there's something above Him that's ticking, and that He has to wait around and so on. No, it doesn't work like that. When we say God is uncreated and eternal, we just mean He's uncreated. He didn't start anywhere. That's all. We don't say He had a infinite past of time, right? So we just say that He's always around. From our perspective, He's always around. He always existed. It doesn't mean there was an infinite amount of time that He was living in in the past, but rather he's uncreated, and therefore there was never a point of existence that he didn't exist in, you know, as in a time, because there was no time before this universe. Anyway, that's a different discussion. But anyway, yeah. So he doesn't change, nor is he under time. So he doesn't have that. He's not subject to that. Okay. So then, here's the thing you also notice about the universe, another way of looking at it, which is this moment in time depends on a previous moment in time, depends on a previous moment in time, depends on a previous moment in time. So if we had to wait for an infinite amount of moments of time to finish before we reach this time, we never reach it. That means there was a first moment in time that came into existence. Now the question is, since every moment in time depends on the previous moment in time, this first moment in time, what came before that? Right? What was the first moment of time? So you say maybe there was nothing, and then the first moment in time started. The first minute, the first second started. What, from nothing? But nothing is not a moment of time itself. Because then we'd say what was before that, what was before that. So let's give this a name. If you like, you can use Arabic. You can call it al-awwal if you like, or the first thing in English if you like. So I'm going to use English now. So let's say the first thing. Okay, so the first thing creates universe, which would be time and space. The first moment of time of what? Of something, of the universe. So it creates the universe, the first moment of time. Okay, but why? Right? Why? It's this one thing that exists, and it just suddenly makes the universe. So the question is, why does it do that? And I'm not saying what it wants from the universe. I'm simply saying, what makes this thing act to make universes? Like, for example, if I go in like, for example, the projector that's producing the light, you know, why did it turn on? Why did it turn on? Why did the projector turn on? It was off, and then it turned on and made the projection. Why did it turn on? Sorry? Because I wanted it to. So I just thought, I want you to turn on, and it turned on. No, what happened? Right? Yeah, someone switched it on, right? So someone switched it on. So the question is, why does this first thing, this uncreated thing, why did it begin to create? Like without mind, like with no, you know, no intention. Why is that not possible? Why did it not do it automatically? You know, like is there a clock here or anywhere? You know, like the clock moves automatically. Why do you know it? How do you know it can't have made the universe just like a machine makes things? You know, you go to a factory, the machines make things mindlessly, right? So how do you know it's not doing that? How do you know? Because the balance of the universe, it makes the universe that happens to have balance in it. So what? There's something more obvious. I'll give you a clue. It's the first thing. So what does that mean if it's the first thing? So this projector turns on. So the projector turns on. Something has to bring it to existence. But if something brought the first thing into existence, if something created the first thing, then it's not the first thing, is it? There's something before it. That would be the first thing. All right? So why does the first thing move? I mean, I'm going to just use the word move as just to maybe help you. I'm not saying it literally moves, but I'm just saying, why does it act? There's nothing. Sorry? A machine can too. Sorry?
Nothing external is making it act because it's the first thing. So it's deciding to do it in its own.
Yes. Victor's decision.
Yeah, well, I suppose you probably read it up there, but yes, no, you're right. If some, okay, I tell you what. So let's say you have a glass on your table, okay, and let's say it starts to move. You might think, oh, it's maybe it's the wind. You close the doors, you make sure there's no wind at all, nothing. The glass still starts to move. The cup still starts to move by itself, and you think, oh, wait a second. May I borrow a prop? This cup, maybe? Can I borrow it? Okay. So it's on the table here, right? There's no wind at all. And suddenly you just see it. Then you look at it. Is there a bug underneath it? Or is there anything pushing it? But it just suddenly starts to move. What would you think? What would you begin to like suspect, like in the back of your mind? I know you know it's a cup, I know, but you think like there's no bugs, there's no wind, right? And let's just say there's no ghosts or anything, jinn or spirits that you can't see moving it, because that would be something else moving it. Let's just say you knew for certain there was no ghosts, no jinn doing it, no wind, no bugs. What would you begin to like be suspicious about? Is it really a cup? Okay, but what else would you think? Well, let's say there's nothing, let's say you know for absolute certain there was nothing else moving the cup except the cup itself. What would you start to think? Huh? You'd start to think it's alive. Because if nothing's moving it, then it must be doing it itself. Right? This is your fitra is telling you this. Right? If something moves by itself, it's alive. Right? It has like an internal energy of some kind, and it's doing it by itself. So if the creator of the universe, the first thing, decides to create the universes, and there's nothing pushing it to do it from outside, that would be the first thing. And you might say maybe there's like an internal mechanism, like you see a clock and the clock is moving because it has a mechanism inside it. Well, really, the hand on the clock that's moving, it's not really the hand that's moving, it's the mechanism that's moving the hand, right? So the mechanism is really the first thing that's moving, yeah? But this thing that creates the universe, this is the first thing. So that if it doesn't have anything internal, because if there was something inside it that was making it move, that thing inside it would be the first thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, does that make sense? So if this creator makes the universe when it doesn't have to, when nothing's pushing it to, there's nothing inside it pushing it to, because it's the first thing, then the only possibility left is it makes the universe because it wants to. Or it has a will. So it has irada in Arabic, right? It has a will. It decides to. And if it can create the universe because to create the universe, you have to create it from nothing. To start it from nothing, you're creating with the power, but it was originally, there was nothing there, and then you made something out of nothing. How much power do you think it has? And again, don't give me the Islamic response. Just give me the response from just as you were to, if you were explaining it to a child that doesn't know anything about any revelation or anything. All right? If it can make a universe from nothing, how much power does it have? Sorry? Why unlimited? Yeah. Yeah. So if it did it once, they can do it again. I'll give you an analogy. So let's say there's a very expensive shop, and a man walks in, and the person working there, the salesperson goes to the man, and the man looks like a poor person, maybe he's dressed with whatever, rags or whatever. And the salesperson goes to the man, excuse me, do you have any money in your bank account? Can you afford to shop here? And it says, no, I don't have any money in my bank account. Say, what? And do you have any money in your pockets? And the man says, no, I have no money in my pockets. So how can you pay for anything here? Say, wait. He rubs his hand together and a gold coin comes out. He makes a gold coin from nothing. And they say, what? Did you do that again? Yeah, sure. Not a gold coin. How rich is that man? How wealthy is he? Infinite. Because if he can do it one time, he can make a gold coin from nothing. He can make it as many times as he wants. And he can make it as big as he wants. Because if you can make one size from nothing, you can make it twice as big, 3 times as big. Because you're making it from nothing. You're not using any energy to do it, right? You're making the energy. So then, here's the conclusion. Just thinking normally, growing up as a child, looking at the world, you come to this realization. You're weak and dependent. Everything is pretty much like you, right? I can give more philosophical arguments but all I'm really saying is more complex words to say the same thing as this. That everything that has a form and a structure, this cup has a structure. You know it was created because it didn't decide its shape, right? Now, if something can decide its shape, that's the same thing as it creating itself. But to create yourself, you have to exist already. And hence the contradiction. So anything that has a shape was created. And everything has a shape. And everything's moving around. It's created. Just like everything's like me. It all has a shape, it's all created. Or depends on a shape, rather, to be more precise. And so there was everything was like me. There must be a start point somewhere because it can't be for infinite in the past. And if it started somewhere, then there must have been a starter. And if something is this thing starting everything, why did it do so? Because it wanted to, it chose to do it. It has a will to do it. And if it can make something, all this from nothing, because it started to start something is to start it from nothing. Right? You might say, but Abdullah, this table was made out by a craftsman, but he didn't make it from nothing. Well, really, a craftsman, all the craftsman does is reshape something already existing. Right? But starting something from nothing is not shaping it, it's making it from nothing, literally from nothing. So this thing has, there's something that created everything. It has a will, an unlimited power. That's enough. That's the minimum basis for God. Call it any name you want, in any language you want. What's the Zulu word for God? Sorry? Mkosi. Umkosi. Okay, mashallah. That's a beautiful word. So you call it whatever name you want. Umkosi, Shangdi, which is the ancient Chinese word. Ptah, ancient Egyptian word. El or Elah, right? It's ancient Semitic word. Call it Anu, ancient Sumerian word. Call it whatever word you want. If you believe these three things, it is the creator. It creates everything that has a shape. It is unlimited in power. It has a will. It's the same God we do. But there's one other conclusion you also notice. One other conclusion. The whole universe seems to be quite ordered. What I mean by that is, if I kick a ball today, I kick it and it goes a certain distance. Tomorrow, if I kick that same ball in the same location with the same energy in the same direction, it goes the same distance as well. The laws of the universe are always the same, right? The laws of the universe are always the same. Now, let's say I'm trying to use an example in South Africa, but I suppose, if someone comes in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal, has a local government, right? And the local government can make the local laws. Yeah, they make local laws. What would happen if tomorrow there was a second government created in KwaZulu-Natal, which was given the exact same powers and ability to make laws as the first government, but the first government doesn't disappear. They're still there. And there's a second government, and they're separate from each other with different people, but they both have the same jurisdiction, the same area that they control, and they can both make the same, they can both make laws. What do you think will happen? Two governments over one land. What do you think will happen? Yeah, conflict, clash, civil war, destruction. Right? The laws of the state will be conflicted, but the laws of this universe seem to be exactly the same. Right? Everything behaves the same way. If you do the same action, you get the same result. If everything was absolutely the same, right? So then, what does that tell you about how many of these gods there are? What does that tell you? There can only be one. But you didn't even need to believe in a second one, because the first thing, by definition, if it's the first, there's nothing else alongside it. It's the first thing, right? So it doesn't need to be a second God to make the universe anyway. But even then, if someone says, but how do you know there wasn't something that was maybe alongside the first thing that just was quiet for a bit, but then started to interfere with the universe? Well, we know this because the universe doesn't seem like it's under two masters. Right? There's no two governments of the universe. There's only one government of the universe. And that's it. That's simply it. I didn't use any big philosophy. I hope you don't think I did. I didn't use big philosophy, complicated arguments. I just said, just remember, and this was things that you probably was in your mind, or in some way you realized as you were growing up, these things, right? I just gave you the words to express what you already were naturally thinking growing up as a child. And did I invent this stuff? No, it's in the Quran, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rebutts the mushrikeen, rebutts the kafirin, refutes them. Were they created by nothing? Are they created by nothing? No. Or are they the creators? Are they the gods? No. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Sorry, are they their own creators? No. Did they make themselves? Were they made by nothing? Did they create themselves? Or are they the God behind the universe? The gods behind the universe? No, they have no firm belief. They have no certainty. Right? So this is the thing, which is the Quran is pointing to something that really we realize as we're growing up. You weren't made by nothing. You didn't create yourself, and you didn't create the universe. So who did? Right? That's what the Quran is arguing. And hence belief in God is always natural, and every civilization known to man has believed in at least a head God. Because they have a head God, because there's always one overall master, right, of the universe. Even if they have to bring other gods later on, he has children, or maybe God can't listen to me because he's like a human. He only has limited attention span. So I have to make a local God, which is a governor or minister of my area, to pray to him, because the head God has no time to listen to me. These are assumptions that humans brought in because they mistakenly over time started to treat God like a human. You understand? Think he's like a human. Anyway, so that's you could say that's why every civilization believes in one God, because it's natural. You could also say every civilization is still following the deen of a prophet that came to them, and maybe that's why they also believe in one God, is because they're all carrying what is left of the revelation they received from a prophet. You know what was interesting? Maybe you guys in IPC have encountered this, and I think maybe you have in some of your research. But I was reading about just randomly, there was okay, so we know about the flood of Noah, right? The flood of Noah. The one thing that people studying different civilizations discovered, which was really baffling to them, they were like, I don't understand this. They study Aztec or Incan beliefs. It's in the New World, the Americas, Central America, South America, and they also believe there was a flood on the world. There was a global flood, or a flood that wiped up a lot of the world. And then they discover there's a African tribe, I think near humans, because, but for them they said because the gods, but their explanation was the humans were making too much noise, right? They're too noisy, so they put a in there. So subhanAllah, people think, oh, where this? They baffled by this. Of course, we have an answer for this question, but for many anthropologists studying humans, tribes, and civilizations around the world, they, the idea of the flood is common from China all the way to Americas. What happened in the world history that caused all these human civilizations to believe there was a flood at one point that decimated many and killed many human beings across the globe? Like global, they might say global flood or whatever. So anyway, Allahu Alam as to why different civilizations believed in this one God or a head God. Either they came to it naturally, or they are preserving the revelation from before. There's a ancient Greek philosopher called Xenophanes, and I'll kind of end on this. Sometimes the atheists use him to argue that gods are man-made, but they don't realize Xenophanes was an atheist. So Xenophanes is an ancient Greek guy in ancient Greece, and he says, you know, if cows had gods, if they made gods, they would make the gods to look like themselves, look like cows, right? He was arguing that mushrikeen, they make gods to look like humans because they're humans. That was all he was arguing, and he rejected shirk. Funnily enough, he said that there must be only one God who's like a powerful mind, right? But he's not. He doesn't look like humans. That was his actual belief, and he came for that with no revelation. There was no revelation that he was aware of at all. But some people say, "Oh, you know, Abdullah, you know, the ancient Greeks existed before revelation. So what was their revelation?" Well, actually, they didn't exist before revelation. Ancient Greece, let's say 800 BC, if you want to say, or you know, ancient Greece. That was 200 years or maybe 300 years after the kingdom of Sulaiman, alayhi salam. So Sulaiman's kingdom is actually the mushrikeen of Greece, anyway. So I hope that made sense to you. It's as simple as this. If you see me using complicated arguments or different approaches and things, I'm just saying the same thing in different words, but it's the same thing, right? Because you know, some atheists will say, "No, I have all these assumptions I have to that confusing me, and I don't see what you're saying." So then I have to make my arguments more complicated because I have to refute complicated assumptions. Do you understand? Right? So the only reason why the arguments get more complicated is because the assumptions get more complicated. Like, oh, I didn't see the universe being created, therefore, how do I know it was created? I say, it's like I go to the, you know, there's the lake, is a lake there, right, over there? Like, I don't see the bottom of the lake. How do I know it doesn't go on forever? Well, because it's at that level. There's something holding it up. Ultimately, I don't need to see the bottom of the lake, right? Oh, but you know, I have to see it before I believe it. It's like, no, you don't, right? You don't need to. As much as like, I didn't see any of your mothers or fathers, but I know you have mothers and fathers, right? I don't have to know, no, until I see it, until I see you, the day you were given birth, I will not believe you were given birth by a parent. Like, no, you don't need to, or why not? And then I have to explain, well, humans can't come from nowhere, and I have to get more complicated because their assumptions are complicated, are denying the obvious. And I have a friend of mine, he's sorry, no, sorry, he's not. He used to live in Tanzania, but he lives in Kenya now, and now he lives in the UK, but he has a house in Kenya. He's Kenyan Asian, right? He's a good friend of mine, and he's one of the reasons why I like African Asians. The mindset is just different. It's nice. Anyway, and he said to me a very profound thing. He said, sometimes the hardest thing to explain to some people is the bloody obvious. That was a typical London expression now, right? And the only reason why it's hard is because all these assumptions they've made to hide the truth from themselves, right? That's all. But it doesn't have to be complicated to believe in God. I know He exists. Okay, that's it. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakallah khair, and thank you for your patience. I hope you've taken some small nugget of some knowledge today from me. And inshallah, the slides will be made available, which are free to watch. And if that doesn't work, you can always message and DM me. I was at your class and I want clarification. I demand it now. So, okay, fine. I will be there. So, barakallahu feekum, and inshallah. Oh, you have a... I'm going to make all these slides available to IPCI afterwards, and they might have do you have the emails, and like, have you given them emails and numbers? And yeah, so they'll just put a link on the group to a Google Drive or whatever, and you have all these. Oh no, not the bank account details. No, just that's something else. No, that's just the PowerPoint to send it to you. So they'll send it to you, inshallah. So I'll give it to them, and they'll make sure that you have all these things. Because I had a whole bunch of text which I published just for you to read. So it's intent for you to actually go through and read all the quotations and things.
There's a course on your website, Madhaib of the West. Is that is it the same course that you're teaching for this weekend, or is it a bit more into depth?
The course on the Madhaib of the West that's on my website is in a sense, this weekend has been a very, very condensed and summarized version of that. That I take my time. And you're like, what? That you take your time? Then compared to now? Wow, okay. No, but that I go through in more detail and explain all the things. But I didn't have enough time to talk about neo-Marxism or critical race theory or queer theory or woke feminism or whatever you want to call it. But if you go to my YouTube account, I have a playlist. I said courses playlist. There's a 5-day course I give at the University of British Columbia based in Canada. It's all there available. And I was asked to give this course as an antidote to many of the sisters in that university being neo-Marxist, some being outward just Marxist, fully Marxist. They even said, we need to bring Karl Marx's books into the Musalla so people can read it. I'm not joking. Yeah? So the brothers were there and were like, brother, please come, we need your help. You have to teach us. So I go through the whole thing. And on the 5th day, I explain how all the fitna in the university, how it's been caused by these ideologies. I connect it to, I say, so all this stuff I've been mentioning, you see this problem that happened here, this problem that happened, that's because of this belief and that belief and so on. That's why you had all this fitna. So I really connect it to them. So you can see, it's like a case study if you'd like. And so watch it, it's all free, it's all on my YouTube. So I go into more detail about it. So yeah, please have a look at that. Okay, any more questions or comments or anything like this before we go? No? Okay. Barakallahu feekum.
Assalamu alaikum. ABDULLAH, thank you very much. If this was the condensed one, I can imagine the 10-day or Alhamdulillah, I appreciate your energy and your in-depth knowledge as well. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. To everybody that came from very far, Jazakallah for all your efforts. I want to thank Mawlana Jazakallah, Mawlana Mawlana Usama, Sheikh Tenja, other alims, as well as Sony, everyone, each one of you that came. We thank you very, very much. And inshallah, we hope to see you all again next year when we have another program. And the program now is that you're going to go to your rooms and get your bags. Bring all the, I'm sure you're packed up already. The big buses just put it in. And whoever needs to pack it away, pack the vans away. We're going to make at about 1:45, we're going to make Zohar Salah. And then 1 o'clock, I hope they're still hungry because they've got lunch. Right? So try to eat the lunch or take it away. I don't know how you're going to take it away, but we can't leave the food because we have to try to eat it, right? So go to the rooms, try to make space now, and bring your bag, and come back, and we make Zohar Salah, and then we can eat and then we're going to leave inshallah. Okay, on behalf of IPCI, Jazakallah so much the participants, the ulama, and to our guest speaker. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.